Today, we're going to dive into a topic that I think many of you know about, but maybe you don't really know about because you
Mhm.
just see the Instagram highlights and reels for creatine. And then you're thinking, do I need it? Maybe I don't lift weights. Maybe I don't need it. But we're going to share with you why every person needs creatine and can benefit from creatine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I get this question commonly, which is why I think we've done podcasts about creatine, around creatine before in the past. It's been a while. But I get a lot of, I think it's become a huge buzz for menopause
Yeah.
because of the cognitive benefits of it. And then there's also a very polarizing other side of women being like, well, I gained a bunch of weight on it. Is it normal to gain, like, and that kind of piece.
Mhm.
And I want to talk about why women gain weight on it, because usually there's a sign that other things are going on, especially if it's substantial. Like pound and a half can be very normal because guess what? It's going to your muscles, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about that. But creatine has become far more than just like a bodybuilder supplement. And it can actually be used in really cool ways. And we've used it in some pretty cool ways. Our mentor, Alex, has used it in some crazy ways. I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if I'm about to give myself 50 grams of creatine. I don't, but
Well, it's funny. We were talking to him and we were like, how much did you take? And he was telling us, and he's like, and now all these other people are out there
yes.
saying, like, take 20 grams plus. And some people do talk about creatine loading. We have always taken the stance, and I will continue to take the stance low and slow, see if you tolerate it. Because I
Yeah.
have had clients before, 3 to 5 grams, and they're like, 5 pounds of
Yes.
water weight that they
Yep.
put on. And so I think that it's important to, like anything else, recognize there's a lot of benefit, but this is also very bio individual. And you might be somebody that feels good at 3 grams. To be honest, I take creatine around my workout, usually with my pre workout because it's easier. Or if I know I'm planning a post workout shake, I just do a half scoop of the 5 because I'm like, yeah, I'm getting the benefits, but why do I need to go high dose? Like, I don't feel that there's something that I'm trying to fix with it other than I'm just trying to support my gut health, mitochondria, and recovery. And if it's doing that at a minimal effective dose, very similar to GLP-1s and microdosing, why do I need to spend more money taking more supplements if I don't need it?
So, and we'll talk about that today because your brain does not absorb as well as
But I'm
the
not
rest
using
of the
it for
body.
cognitive function.
Exactly.
Right.
So, if that is what you're using it for, which is what a lot of women in perimenopause, menopause are using it for,
They need more.
we need more.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about it. We're going to cover the types, we're going to cover dosing a little bit, why we see that weight gain. But let's first start with what is creatine. So, creatine is made from arginine, glycine, and methionine in the liver and in the kidneys. And it's stored mostly in skeletal muscle, 95% of it. And it acts as a rapid ATP buffer through what's called the creatine phosphocreatine system. Okay, so your body makes creatine. But understand that. It's not like we have to take creatine. It's just, it can be one of those things that can optimize at higher levels. And obviously, as you age, as processes slow, as maybe you are not taking the best care of yourself, your systems that should create adequate levels start to suffer, right? And so, why women especially benefit, because women tend to have lower baseline levels.
Well, they don't
So,
also eat as much protein as men,
yes,
generally.
in generally, yeah. Women naturally have also about 70 to 80% lower muscle creatine stores compared to men, which is substantial. So, also likely due to lower muscle mass, right? And different hormonal regulation and stuff like that. But in general, females have lower baseline levels. So, we need it
Mhm.
more,
Yeah.
technically.
Well, and then I think too, in certain seasons of life, you might want to take it more. So, for example, when you think about the cognitive, benefits, there's been studies around this, but also feeling it for yourself. And this is what Alex was talking about, why he used it when he was sleep deprived. It really helped him with focus and, mental sharpness and showing up cognitively to perform if it was for a podcast or presentation. And so I was actually just chatting with one of my clients and I'm like, yeah, you can use some of these nootropics and things like that. But if you're not sensitive taking it higher doses, then maybe you do want, to take a little bit extra because hey, I'm flying or I have this event or whatever it might be. And I know that I'm not going to be 100% with my sleep. Now I want to take extra, right? But I
Yeah.
would just caution if you are somebody who's sensitive to that. Then we also think about bone density. Obviously, creatine alone isn't going to do the work for you. That stressing your bones and doing like rebounding work and, really thinking about the whole bone remodeling and osteoclast and reclast and rebuilding, you've got to have stress on your bones to do this. But there are studies that show creatine and resistance training increase bone mineral density, which is obviously very, very important in perimenopause and menopause. And then we're also looking at mood and fatigue. And I think, again, for me, this would probably go back to looking at the whole picture of the person. If you weren't sleeping well, that would probably be why you're fatigued and not really having great mood. So could this support all around bringing up that energy? Now I have, less anxiety or depression because I'm able to go about my day and do the things that I need to and then sleep well at nighttime, right? And we know that other things, other factors, like we're saying here with exercise supports circadian rhythm, right?
Yes.
There's other things that you're going to have to be doing. But I had somebody ask me this weekend, hey, if I'm not strength training, could I still benefit from creatine? I said, yeah, you could. And you should take it still, but you should also resistance training. Everyone should resistance train. I mean, muscle is longevity. And so if you want to live a long life, I think it's funny for people to be out there like buying all the supplements, saying they're going to hack their way, whatever. They want to prevent dementia. They want to, do all of the things to optimize their health, but then you don't go and resistance train. What are you doing?
Dude, the Zumba class at our gym is packed every morning when I go to lift. And it's like, I don't know, 50 women in there. And they're all older. But I want to go in there and be like, this is better than nothing, but please go lift a weight. Like, it is just so important for longevity, for health, for prevention of fractures, everything. I mean, it's anti-inflammatory. Muscle is literally anti-inflammatory to your body.
I was just reading a post this morning, so I haven't fact checked this, but I did find it interesting. They were looking at, it was a study done on women in cardiovascular health and dementia. And it was like those who are cardiometabolically healthy, they had like a 68% lower dementia rate. And I was like, well, yeah, because obviously their blood sugars are probably going to be a little bit better. And, we
blood
think
flow.
Blood flow, we think diabetes and type 3, all this stuff. So we don't negate, like in Zumba, you're going to get your heart rate up. But somebody asked us too, like, is Pilates the same as weightlifting? Is Zumba the same as weightlifting? Is running the same as weightlifting? You're not lifting a weight. So that would be your answer.
Pilates
You're
is
using your own body weight.
There's
right?
resistance, I think, in Pilates. You can add more resistance, right? I think Pilates is great for stabilizer muscles and for flexibility and balance and, things that are also very important. Most Pilates people that I know, good ones, also lift.
Right.
Like they do both.
Yeah. And your Pilates can support your lifts.
Yes.
Because you're elongating, right? And getting that extra range of motion and flexibility, which allows you to lift more. But when we say lift, we actually mean pick heavy shit up and put it down. I don't mean like your own self, because that's just your own resistance, right? Which is better than nothing, again.
It is.
But
I would say Pilates is more of a maintenance. Like if I was this is how I look at Pilates. I do not build muscle doing Pilates. I maintain muscle doing Pilates. If I'm in a really stressful state of life and I need to maybe get away from more things that stress me out, like tons of weightlifting, maybe I do less weightlifting and some Pilates to keep myself active, whatever it might be. But yeah, it's not going to build a ton of muscle.
Right.
Which is what most people don't realize is what makes you look different. Mm-hmm. That's the hard part.
Right. So anyways, we just wanted to tangent there, but because it's like, I do see a lot of people, they want to supplement. Like you have this reel that you're going to do soon about, some lady making a concoction, basically saying that you can do this and then not have to lift weights and be strong still. And it's like,
she has like almost 1 million followers.
Of course she does. And of course it's a fucking supplement that she's selling that she's going to make commission on.
All supplements on these amino acids. I can't. I just get so frustrated because it's like, these women just are grasping for straws of what can I do to fix the problem other than facing what I need to do actually to fix the problem. And so anyways.
It also really just grinds my gears that I bet you if you looked at this individual and all of the supplements that she sells, she probably has nothing, like her background is just, she's an influencer. She's not someone who's actually trained to be able to share to the person why that supplement didn't work. Oh, because that hormone balancing supplement, $79, isn't going to balance your hormones because you need hormones to balance your hormones.
I get really frustrated. And yeah.
Back to creatine.
Back to creatine. The types of creatine. Okay. So there are monohydrate and HCl. Creatine monohydrate is very well researched. There's over 30 years of research showing benefits. There's a lot of meta-analysis, which are basically like compilations of different research trials, which confirm improved strength, power, lean mass, recovery. It's the most cost-effective and stable when mixed in water, and the absorption rate is very high, 99%. Okay. So creatine HCl is marketed as more soluble, less bloating. So if someone is very sensitive to creatine and they want to take it, but they don't want the effects that they're having from it, HCl is where you would probably go. But here's the problem. It has much more limited peer review research. There's no large scale human studies proving superiority. And sometimes it's better tolerated in those with sensitive GI tracts, but not more effective. So it's basically what seems to be shown in the limited research that there is that it's the same as creatine monohydrate. But if for whatever reason you don't digestively tolerate monohydrate, you can do HCl, but you're going to be paying about 2 to 3 times more. I always just default to monohydrate.
I do as well. And part of me says if somebody goes on this and they do get that water retention and weight gain, look at your hormones. I'm thinking like aldosterone, the RAS system. I'm thinking, other factors in the body, sodium, potassium, mineral balance, those types of things.
Yep.
And then again, could you at a lower dose, because there's actually good research for gut health and inflammatory bowel disease, as well as like Crohn's colitis, to taking creatine to support your gut lining, because that fuels the cells of your intestinal lining to help prevent leaky gut or that irritation, calm that down. It's very anti-inflammatory. So I think that when in the context of these very sensitive GI cases, look at the quality and the purity, but also look at the dosing, and maybe also look at other factors that are influencing your ability to take this, because I'm not sold that it's creatine's fault. I think that what's happening, because it's also mitochondrial support, we haven't gotten there yet, but it is something that can be very helpful for our mitochondria. It also acts as an antioxidant, and one that's actually hormetic. So this was a cool thing that I don't know if we were listening to podcasts together or we were talking with Alex about it, but kind of talking about how you can take creatine at high doses and not overdose yourself on antioxidants, because
Yes.
the way that it works in the body is that it's hormetic. So it's going to be kind of this homeostasis. And so with that, if we're taking antioxidants and we're fighting against these free radicals and this oxidative stress, we're cleaning things out. That's a benefit. But with that might come a detox reaction, which is my philosophy around some individuals that say they're sensitive to it in terms of that microbiome health. I think that it's really other things that you need to address. And this is just kind of opening your eye to that bigger issue. And once you do that, if you're able then to support your body with the appropriate antioxidants and other things, then you would be able to tolerate this just fine and get the benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll dive into other specific reasons in a minute about like why people typically get negative side effects after we go through the dosing and all the benefits for it. Because there's we briefly touched on them already, but there's a lot. So for general health and performance, 3 to 5 grams a day. Creatine monohydrate, you don't need to cycle it. Sometimes I'll do like 4 or 5 days a week, 2 days off, something like that. I'll do it on training days only.
I just do it on training days.
But yeah, exactly. Because it's typically unflavored. I do really like the Create gummies. I did those for a while. They're just expensive. So those are really tasty. Otherwise it's unflavored. Like I'm not going to mix it with water,
I mix with my pre-workout that I just started from Just Ingredients, which is
love doing that.
Yum.
Yes. I love Just Ingredients. I have a gift card of them to use. Maybe I'll get pre-workout.
You should.
Okay.
Their pre-workout, it's enough for me to get the little feel from it, but I don't get that full body tingle. Like if you ever took C4, oh my God, we were on our trip too.
You should just dry shot.
Yes.
Pre-workout.
Yes.
I just in your kitchen would just take out the pre-workout, chug it through no water. You would chug some water after. But
yeah, he does. He does still. Some people dry scoop it. He'll also do it with his creatine and other things. Like I'll come down. He's got his creatine, L-glutamine, just pop it in his mouth, swish it around with some water, and he's done. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so funny. And I've done it before too, but there was one time that I like spit it out. Anyways, so moving on. Just ingredients, the pre-workout, I was going to say that I really appreciate one, the ingredients, but two, it gives you enough of that pre-workout stim without making you anxious like a C4 used to, which is just really harsh. So anyways, you can do loading phases. So we talked briefly about this, but what you would do there is like maybe 5-7 days doing 20 grams or so to saturate your muscle faster, but this is not required and I would not recommend it personally. Because what if 5 milligrams makes you gain a bunch of water weight? Now, what are we talking? 20 milligrams is going to do. Low,
20 grams.
Low, come on. It's fine. If you tolerate it, fine. Cool. Double the dose. See what happens. Tolerate that, fine. Cool. Double the dose. See what happens. I mean, for me, we're flying to Spain next week and we're going to have this, jet lag and everything. And I was like, well, man, that could be really helpful. But also, I'm not about to get to Spain and shoot up some creatine and blow up and be all watery at the beach. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, we got to really think real world.
Agreed. Agreed. So let's talk a little bit around why you might need more for cognitive support. So cognitive support, we're talking brain fog, stress, sleep deprivation, which we touched on a little bit. 5 grams a day is shown to improve working memory in women under mental stress. But creatine in the brain does not saturate as easily as muscle. Muscle kind of gets the first come, first serve. So when you're taking a daily 3 to 5 gram dose, you're not going to top off your muscles. And in turn, you're not going to get to those cognitive stores that need it, right? And so the brain's uptake is slower, it's less efficient, and under high demand stress states, sleep deprivation, mental fatigue, depression, traumatic brain injury, creatine turnover is much higher. So that's why you might need more if you're really going for the cognitive and mood benefits. So in sleep deprivation studies, in women, 20 grams a day of creatine for 7 days improve reaction time, balance, and reduce mental fatigue. Cognitive studies, some trials show benefits at 5 grams a day, but most significant improvements are seen at higher doses, closer to 10 to 20 grams a day, especially in vegetarians and vegans, because again, creatine is basically a compilation of amino acids, right? Mood and mental health. Pilot studies in women with depression have used 5 grams a day as an adjunct to SSRIs and shown faster and stronger responses. So you can use it alongside SSRIs. And then perimenopause, menopause, some studies suggest creatine help offset sarcopenia. Shocker, because it saturates your muscles so that you can build muscle tissue easier. And then vegan and vegetarian women. I mean, I actually was watching Dr. Courtney Hunt's stuff, which she's a little polarizing, but she's smart. She doesn't take vegans on. She's like, when someone gets a genetic test from me, if I note that they're a vegan and they are unwilling to be open-minded about changing that methodology, I will not take them on, because
I don't blame her.
I don't blame her either, because you need it is your circadian rhythm, your whole internal environment requires amino acids from animal protein.
Yeah. There was a post from Dr. Connolly this week that was talking about cancer and animal protein and how it's anti-cancer. And so, I mean, it's just very hard when you think overall, if you are going to be vegan, vegetarian, and there might be some religious beliefs or whatever there, you need to then work a lot harder to fill the gaps of what you're missing. Because by the way, God kind of designed this cycle for us, but take it up with whatever you believe in. Maybe then you just have to really work, diligently to fill all these gaps. And I just think there's nothing that compares. So anyways, All right, let's talk about why some women experience more retention than others. So we mentioned in the beginning of this that water is pulled into the muscle and also nutrients pulled into the muscle. This is why it helps with recovery. When you think about pre and post workout nutrition, what do we always say? What have we always said? What do you see, from people who are coaching nutrition for athletes? You're looking at a protein to carb ratio, 2 to 1, kind of 3 to 1, depending upon how intense the training was, the duration, and, things like that. But you want a good amount of protein with double your carbohydrates. A lot of this is because that your body has that uptake much easier, and that helps with refueling and repairing. Same thing with creatine. So you're pulling water and nutrients into the cell so that you can recover properly and repair and rebuild that tissue that you've broken down to try to hopefully build bigger tissue. So of course, you're going to see a little fluctuation here, just like you would if you increased your carbohydrates, because now you want to put a little bit more energy in the tank. 1 to 2 pounds, not water, 1 to 2 pounds is water, not fat. What are some other reasons? So we talked briefly about this. I mentioned electrolyte imbalance, right? So you might have low magnesium, potassium, you might have high sodium. This could be pushing water extracellularly, making you feel like you're more bloated. I would say that you could also be dehydrated, and then your body is soaking this up like a sponge. So I think the mineral and electrolyte balance and hydration is definitely a huge one. Second is mitochondrial or metabolic dysfunction. So we talked about the powerhouse, the energy of our cells. These turn the lights on in the body. And if ATP recycling is poor, your creatine might temporarily disrupt that fluid balance before adaptation. And so you could have this period, we call it the adjustment period or adaptation, where maybe you're putting in 1, 2, 3 grams and you're easing your way in, you're letting your body adapt and adjust to this, then you're able to get those higher doses without such shifts. Again, what did I say before? When you are also putting antioxidants in, and that's combating reactive oxidative species, oxidative stress, this is going to help detoxify. Sometimes that's going to give you a little bit of this slight of bloating sensation because things are gassing off gassing, whatever you want to say there. Hormonal fluctuations, estrogen and progesterone shift. I probably wouldn't put this in the week of your period because, you're thinking, oh, maybe I exacerbated this a little bit more. But when we think about also how our hormones influence that sodium handling, this can definitely go hand in hand with what I said before about electrolyte imbalance. I'll let Becca weigh in here. But for me, I think everybody should be supporting with magnesium because it's such a huge issue for so many people. Over 75% of the population is mag deficient. I think that's key. And then I think looking at your sodium potassium ratios, we love Element. It's not for everyone in the way that it is a higher sodium to potassium ratio. I'm seeing more and more people needing more potassium, especially those chronically constipated. So keeping it at like a 1-to-1 ratio, or maybe even for a period of time, a 2-to-1 potassium to sodium ratio. So it depends upon the person. And then the last one here is poor gut and liver function. So sluggish detoxification or methylation. One of the ways that your body detoxifies, we have sulfation, glucuronidation, methylation. We've done podcasts ad nauseum on this. This can influence how creatine is utilized, right? All of these amino acids in the body, these chemical messengers, they have repercussions, right? Because they're telling other cells to do things or not. And so if that's influencing that, then you might notice that there is, again, a adverse reaction for a short period of time, but signaling you there's other work underlying to be done and to be addressed.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, who should consider this? Athletes, lifters, obviously, women in perimenopause, menopause, definitely vegans and vegetarians. If you're struggling with fatigue, brain fog, mood struggles, older women for that sarcopenia prevention, and you want to start with 2 to 3 grams a day, you can up to 5 grams a day. And if you feel good there, you could even try going up to 10 grams a day for that cognitive use. But monohydrate is going to be the best, the most researched, the cheapest. And if puffiness occurs, it may signal areas that you need to optimize that should not be ignored.